The political division in recognising an Indigenous vote to Parliament certainly makes the task harder, but we can't forget it's a referendum. So it's not the politicians who decide, it's you, the people. There's a lot riding on the campaign, this voice to Parliament, and there are inherent risks as well. Joining me live is Dr. Mike Turner. He's a director at Freshwater Strategy. Mike, good to see you. You've seen the debate so far. We see the history of referendums getting up in this country, but you've got some experience here. Are there parallels to Brexit, and what are they?
Yeah, I was just been looking at the polling last week. You know, 2/3 of people were supportive of a voice at this time, and you know it has parallels to Brexit in the UK, where a year out from that referendum, about 2/3 supported Remain, and we all know how that shook out. And you know, I still have the scars from that referendum, the nation kind of going through that process. Yeah, I think there are plenty of parallels. I think, like Brexit, there's little information at the moment about what the outcome not only will be if it is successfully gets up, but also about who's on what side and what the parties will do about it.
Interesting to see here if there's a kind of Bradley effect or a Trump effect, if you like. The polls are a snapshot in time, they're retrospective, they're not predictive. But can you see a scenario here where, you know, the polite thing to do in polite society is to say, yes, we support an Indigenous voice, but do you think there are more people who privately are constitutional conservatives, if you like?
No, I think we should believe where the polls are correct right now. I think what the polls mask, though, is the sort of softness of that, the vote currently. And that's to say that it could go either way. It could strengthen even further, or it could kind of narrow and become a little bit tighter from what we're seeing at the moment. I think the interesting parallels with Brexit was that the more information that came out, the more that vote tightened closer to polling day. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not
it benefited the Brexit.
It did in that instance, and
right.
In part that was because of the personalities that were involved. So David Cameron allowed a conscience vote on the European referendum in the UK, and that allowed key figures like Boris Johnson and Michael Gove to basically break from the rest of the main rump of the Conservative Party, join figures like Gisela Stewart, and put forward what clearly was ultimately a compelling
argument. And they could get out, be the public face campaign without looking disloyal to the party. So you kind of avoid those, you know, articles day by day saying, you know, rumblings within government or within, you know, the party that, you know, they're all divided. When you put in a conscience vote, it kind of strips it out a bit, doesn't it? So I guess the suggestion is at the moment, I don't know, that Peter Dutton may allow a conscience vote on his own side. Is that wise? Well,
I can understand potentially why, but I guess the lesson from the UK experience is that there was conflict. You know, it's pretty clear David Cameron was not happy with Boris and Michael going out to join Vote Leave, and there were contests. They got up on stage, the Conservative Party parliamentarians got up on stage and debated against one another ahead of the referendum.
But if you're allowing a conscience vote, that's what you're going to do.
That's right.
You acknowledge that people disagree in the party. I'm also interested about the Brexit parallels here. The more information that came out during the campaign, the more people obviously supported Brexit. This is what we're debating at the moment. There's a distinct lack of detail in the Voice campaign plan. There are preferences, but even in among Indigenous leaders, there is a disagreement. Is there an inherent risk here, do you think, for the Voice campaign as more detail comes out? Do you think it will, you know, harden people's support of it, or do you think they might get a bit scared by it?
Well, I guess it could go either way. It depends what that information is. It could be information that ends up reassuring the right, for instance, in which case they may be more confident to be able to kind of lean into it, or it could be information that ultimately makes people feel a little bit more nervous about what it is that they are voting for.
That's right.
So, the difference here is that the Voice ultimately has the ability to be able to clarify a lot of these detail.
Indeed.
Whereas with Brexit, I guess there was a huge unknown regardless leaving the European Union. That means, you know, less trade with the European Union, removal of specific laws, and also kind of cultural change as well in the sense.
You're talking about the practical. So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people at the moment in Australians, and I think Australians are quite practical. They say, yep, okay, we're pretty happy to do this. We want to see an Indigenous voice in Parliament. What's it going to change practically?
Yep.
How does that change the debate even?
Yeah, and so from the kind of research that we've done, we can see that that's what people are looking for. What they're looking to understand is what is the practical difference to my life and to people around me, and what does it potentially hold for the kind of future and for my kids as well. So
without giving away too many secrets, I mean, as someone who helps shape campaigns, what would you say to either side? Is it simplifying the message? Are Australians really conservative when it comes to the Constitution, or are they just practical and want to know how this is going to change things?
No, clearly the history in Australia is one where they're happy to change the Constitution. Yeah, it has happened. But I think
not all that regularly,
no, not
but
all
yes.
that regularly, but it has happened. So look, I think the honest answer is that both sides will be tooling up right now. They will be doing their research and they'll be looking to come up with simplified, snappy lines that kind of support their side. My instinct is that the debate is going to centre around the detail, and we don't yet have that detail. And I guess that's why the result, although at the moment it's quite commanding, 2/3 support is quite strong, that is not locked in. And a year in politics, it can really change that result, and it can make a lasting impact.
A year is a lifetime in politics right now. A week is a lifetime. Dr. Mike Turner, always good to talk to you. Thanks.
Likewise.